Welcome to the Rock Interview Series with host Thomas S. Orwatt Jr.
Welcome to episode number 94 of the Rock Interview Series. I'm your host, Thomas Orwatt Jr. It is February 27th, 2024, and for this feature, I have guitar legend and member of the heavy metal band SAXON, Paul Quinn, and bassist, vocalist, and former U.D.O and Doro member Harrison Young as my guest. During this interview, Paul and Harrison talk about their rock blues based power trio, The Cards, which they formed in 2018, along with drummer Koen Herfst. Since then, The Cards released two incredible records, their self-titled in 2019 and Generation Jukebox, which was released in 2023. This year, The Cards plan to continue touring and may even release a brand new single. In addition, we discussed some of Paul's past experiences with SAXON, and then both Paul and Harrison reveal their top 3 favorite records of all time. So let's get started. Here is Paul Quinn and Harrison Young. Before we get started, please subscribe to the Rock Interview Series. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rock Interview Series. And we have a really cool special here today. We have the group The Cards with us, and you may recognize one of the people down here. It's the mighty guitar legend Paul Quinn of SAXON is here today with us, and in the new band The Cards. And also Harrison Young, who's a singer and bass player of The Cards, and also has played in the band U.D.O and also with Doro. So we'll talk about that in a little while. But guys, thank you so much for being guests on the Rock Interview Series. I've been listening to the record, the most recent record, for quite a while right now. Matter of fact, I had it in my office, playing in my office, and when one of my employees walked in and said, "Who is that playing?" And I said it was Eric Clapton, and he believed me. He said, "Wow, it sounds good for Eric Clapton." And it was the song "The Gamble" that was playing, and it was during that lead that Paul does so brilliantly. So, but then I explained who it was. I go, Eric Clapton wishes he could play like this because nobody plays like Paul. Yes.
For a Clapton fan, that's some compliment.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess let's start off by, telling us how the band got together. You formed in 2018, released your first record in 2019. Again, it's a power trio. I was blues based, right? I mean, that's pretty obvious that what it is, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I tend to think that most rock and roll that we know of is blues based. So I don't think we stray too far from the rock history that came before us, including SAXON and even Zeppelin and Sabbath and
and some Beatles.
Yeah.
Paul, was it easy for you? I mean, since there are obviously, like Harrison said, there are a lot of blues influences and rock and metal and that. Was it easy for you to transition from a metal guitar god into this the blues X slinger?
I can't say it was. No, I've always been messing around with blues in jamming, open mic nights, that kind of thing. And I started in a covers band anyway, so my tastes are really broad.
I remember going to see SAXON on festivals when I was playing with Doro or U.D.O and standing side stage and just thinking, man, these are some tasty licks. And luckily, I think I was always standing on stage left, which was Paul's side. And so I could really hear what he was doing well. And I was always blown away by that aspect of them. I thought it was way groovier than a lot of the other bands I was hearing at those festivals.
Well, my next question is, how did you guys meet and why did you decide to form this band?
Yeah.
That would be Geiselwind, wouldn't it? Although I think we met at Vacuum by Sea once as well.
Yeah.
Later, probably.
Yeah. We ran across each other several times out in that circuit. And indeed, at Geiselwind, we were at the check-in desk of the hotel. There's this big metal festival which takes place at a gas station of all places in Geiselwind, Germany. And it's a pretty epic festival. It happens every year still, I think. And my friend from the Doro band, Johnny D, was like, "Yo, that's Paul. And I think he's hanging around in The Hague a lot, man. And you guys should hang out." And sure enough, we did. And we just started hanging as friends. We would get together, we would have dinners, have some drinks. And then somewhere along the way, we decided to, yeah, change that into sessions to get some ideas down and make some music with the common threads between us. And we didn't necessarily have a clear trajectory of what genre we were going to do, where we were going with it. But as things came together, I think we were really increasingly proud of what was happening, and it turned into our first album, self-titled debut album that came out in 2018.
Yeah, and that's a good one. And I'm hoping that, there's a possibility of you guys bringing this over to America. Is that a possibility?
Yeah,
It's hard to say at this point, isn't it? We'd love to.
Oh, well, okay, that's good. I want to hear that at least.
absolutely. I mean, getting a band on the road ain't easy, and getting overseas ain't easy. I, of course, have the American passport. I'm from the New York area, so it would be slightly easier for me. But with visas and such, it takes some help from a promoter, from a good promoter, some good venues. But I mean, of course, we'd like to spread the Cards gospel wherever it can be spread. And I do think it has a cool, rootsy enough vibe that it might hit really well out there. So someday, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. I think it's just a matter of people listening to it and being exposed to it. Like
Yeah.
I stumbled upon it myself, obviously a Saxon fan and said, look, Paul Quinn's doing something different. And I stumbled upon it. I said, holy, he really is doing something different. And this is amazing as always, but it's different for him. Yeah. So I was surprised, and more people need to stumble upon that, I believe. And then if that happens, I mean, who knows what's going to happen next?
Cool. Much appreciated, man. Glad to hear
Yeah.
that.
Keep everything crossed.
Yeah.
So the next
Can't cross
question I
my eyes. It's not possible.
the next question I have is about how can people get a hold of your your wonderful shirts you have, and also other merchandise by the Cards, and of course the records and CDs. How can people in America get a hold of them?
Two.
Yeah, if I can grab that one. We have everything pretty much available at thecardsofficial.com. Our shirts are available through an online store called Epic Merch Store, and we have like an incredible variety of things available there, from beanies and shirts and whatever. Even I have a 2.5-year-old son. He's got a Cards onesie that he wears that I got over there. And so yeah, you can get in there and find that stuff. And we decided to release our CDs and signed editions, and even our playing cards that we have. I don't know if I have any around, but those are all available on Bandcamp, which I think is a fantastic platform for independent musicians and incredible for having really a one-on-one connection with your fans. I mean, the second we have something in hand, we can pop it up there, and we're very lucky to have a super loyal, kind fan base from all around the world that follows us and picks stuff up from there. So that's bandcamp.com/thecardsofficial. But again, yeah, all at our website, wherever.
Would you describe the songwriting process in the band?
Hmm.
Mm.
Why don't you floor that one, Paul?
Yeah. I often hand out CDs of riffs that people can pick and choose what they like Biff used to, and now Harrison does. So he could help with arranging stuff and use some of my poetry as proper lyrics.
Yeah. So it was super collaborative to start. I mean, like Paul said, he gave me this CD, and I imagine he had also given a copy of the same thing, just full of riff ideas, to Biff Byford. And I mean, what a thrill that is to get these incredible riffs from one of the master riff makers of the universe, in my opinion. And also via WhatsApp, every now and again, the drummer Koen and I will get a text message in our group app, and it's just like, Paul messing around at home, coming up with gold, and eventually it gets turned into something cool and unique for us. There have been a few times, especially I guess when Paul was still playing with Saxon, where the wires got a little crossed, and there was one song especially where Biff had his eye on that riff, but I also really liked it, and Paul decided maybe we defer to Mr. Byfoot on this one. but he in the end it didn't get used on that album, and which I was secretly very thrilled about. So we turned that into our song. And if I can say which one, it's Ride the Freight Train off our first album. So that a very, very classic Saxon type riff, almost Crusader like. But what a thrill it is for a singer like me, a Jersey boy, to just get to write lyrics over something like that and sing it myself. It's pretty awesome.
It was like a mixture of Crusader and a spiritual
Yeah.
with dark overtones, which is quite weird.
Nice.
So you're Paul, you're telling me that after 23 records with Saxon, you still have this great quality riff still remaining after all these years? Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Oh man, I think there are hundreds that weren't even used yet for our albums. It's like he's a fountain of ideas, and that's really amazing.
Paul, are you still involved with Saxon at all? Because it's kind of confusing. When the press release came out, that I remember it reading that you were just not going to tour with Saxon anymore. But are you still working with them at all? Or I mean, not touring, but still like contributing or anything with Saxon?
I've played two or three solos on the new album. I've didn't come up with anything particularly quickly for this album because it was quite a rush to get it out for the Judas Priest tour. But the doors are open, and anything remotely usable by them, I'll send.
Yeah. And you've done a few gigs with them, and you will do a few more coming up, I think, right?
There's one coming up, yeah, that I'm gonna be a kind of badly kept secret on the Leeds gig.
Shh, don't tell anybody,
Oh,
Thomas. Come on.
It's on the internet. Nobody will know. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Over your 23 albums with Saxon, is there one in particular that you really like over the others, or are they all like your children and you love them all the same?
hmm. That's I. It's just so hard to choose, actually. Yeah, because they all have their own sound almost, you know. But obviously, the fans choose for us, so we often used to go with what they would like to hear, you know. Especially when he asks, quite often asks them what they want to hear.
Hey! As singers do, right?
Yeah.
And then the whole rest of the band goes, fuck.
Yeah. Do you know the sound of silence by Simon and Garth?
As long as you're not
No.
getting the as long as you're not getting the Freebird request, right? I'm
Oh
sure
yeah,
there's
man.
probably a smart ass in the audience that's done that a couple times. Back to some of the songs on the most recent record, Generation Jukebox. One of the songs that I really like is the song "The Middle." I really love the lyrics there because I think it's really relatable to a lot of people. I mean myself, I'm like 58, and I kind of feel like some days I do feel like I'm on top, and some days I feel like I just want to give up. And
Yeah.
I've never heard a song that kind of like really addressed that feeling before. So, I mean, kudos to you for coming up with that concept.
Ah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome that you pick up on that one specifically. That's actually sung by our drummer on the album, Koen Herfst. And it's something we came up with at a very specific time in our history as a band. We were on tour. It was our first European tour. We were in Italy, and COVID just had begun around us, sort of unbeknownst to us. There was this mystery virus floating through the air at that point, but we were right smack in the middle of northern Italy when that went down. And we were staying in a little hotel right on the Adriatic Sea. And yeah, we were just going back and forth. A few gigs were canceled because of this mystery virus at that point. And we were just going back and forth, walking along the highway to this little restaurant, the only one that was open in town, night after night, about 3 nights in a row, and starting to get quite depressed about the prospects that we had, the hopes that we had for this tour to finally get out there as a trio, and just sort of seeing it fall apart around us for whatever reason. And yeah, that's where those lyrics came from. And we were chanting them. We were walking down that highway, no sidewalk, side of this little highway, going in the middle, in the middle, in the middle of my dreams. And we just had to bottle that and hang on to that and keep that feeling. So it's a special song for us also on that album.
Yeah, it's like it's very catchy. Yeah,
Thanks, man.
you're welcome.
Yeah,
Paul,
the
you wanted
Gamble's got a similar kind of vibe of about COVID as well.
Yeah. And just doing it, putting it out there, trying your best with it all. And that's what we do
Mm,
as artists and as people,
the
yeah.
Gamble is one of the songs where you really hear Paul, like I said earlier, just kick ass on guitar. I mean that stuff is like your guitar neck must have been like melting when you were playing that. It was just a really great guitar solo part on that song.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you.
Do you
I
when
enjoy,
you
I enjoy I enjoy the art. You know, it falls to my fingers quite easily. But
does it take you time to like develop that a guitar solo, for instance, when you record it, or is it something that's more spontaneous?
it's very spontaneous with the cards. I have written solos before, but I often prefer just to jam something and hope it sounds great.
They all sound great. Is it difficult for you since it's spontaneous? Is it difficult for you to play them again, like when you play out? I mean, play them note for note, or do you kind of like not play them note for note, but kind of have the general kind of like feeling that you had when you recorded it?
Yeah, the latter, just keep the vibe. Kind of quote it, but not verbatim.
Yeah,
No.
I think that's one of the luxuries of this new project for Paul is that yeah, it doesn't have to be as exact as some of the things that he's done in the past. I mean, you can't fudge the denim and leather solo, it's like people are coming to hear a certain thing. But yeah, with us, I mean, there's room for grooviness. There's room for improvisation, and our songs change as we play them. Sometimes we get wild ideas. We've added some, even I had a bass solo on the last tour for a little while, just because why the hell not?
Wow, another song is King Kong on the record. Again, another really cool song. Lyrically, it's awesome. Guitar stuff is just insane. Absolutely insane on that one. Tell us a little bit about that song and how you created that one.
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of my Billy Gibbons side, you know, his kind of blues. There are many sides to my blues. You know, it can go from Hendrix, Clapton, and whatever up to present day almost. Yeah.
Hmm. And that's actually a special song for us too, because many of the previous things we did were created sort of as many people do these days over space and time in several different studios. Like I was recording here at home in my home studio. Paul was recording in the UK, and then we had Koen on drums here in The Hague also. But King Kong was the very first song we did together in the room as a band. And it was the first of a series of like 5 songs we made that way for Generation Jukebox, where Paul sort of brought this riff. And that was like, okay, let's play with that. And we improvised on it in the room together. We recorded for a really, really long time and then cut it down into the sort of verse, chorus, whatever sections that ended up on the tune. And then we had that. And I think it sounds really juicy because we were just there together. And if I remember correctly, that was literally the very first thing we played together in the room after
Mm.
COVID, after all those years of not being able to see each other in person. Those were like the first notes that came out, King Kong. And lyrically, it was really fun too. I was sort of trying to get on something about it and, just talk about unleashing pent up rage. And yeah, when I came up with those words and it's on with the fury of King Kong, I thought, can I do this? Is that okay? Is it weird? Nah, I'm doing it. I'm committing. And there it is. I'm a fan of that one too.
Yeah. And then the record ends with the song "The End," which is a little different stylistically than the rest of the record. And Paul's guitar tone is a little different too, and it's unique, and I love it. And I
Mm.
wanted Paul to tell us about how he, went about that song, "The End."
Okay, okay. It's kind of not atonal, but what's the word for it? Descant kind of riff, if you can call it a riff, because it's actually an arpeggio played upwards. Um, I had the idea because I've heard quite often a clean guitar sound and backed by an acoustic on other records, and I wanted to try that on that one. So I was happy with the mixture of the attack of the acoustic and the smoother sound of the electric.
A spooky tune.
It is spooky, yeah.
It's a great
Can't think of
closer to the
anything
record.
else to say about it. Yeah, thanks. All credit to Harrison for seeing the gold behind the riff.
Yeah, funny. A bit like prophetic in a weird way for whatever reason. But it
Mm.
felt like the right thing to talk about in that tune, just like the uncertainty of all futures and who knows what's next for any of us. I
Yeah,
think
especially nowadays, right?
yeah.
Scary times out there.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll
Um,
say.
Paul, I want to ask you, you could probably collaborate with pretty much anyone out there with your reputation you have. Why did you decide to take on a project with Harrison? Not to embarrass you, Harrison, but I mean, I'm just I'm just curious. Why did you pick him? I mean, obviously he's a great bass player and he's a great lyricist. We got that, but what else does he bring to the table?
We just got on from the word go. We hung out a lot in The Hague where I was living at the time, and just decided there and then to make demos once a week, which we thought would be demos, but we were doing them well enough for them to be released, so we did. Um, his abilities are way beyond what we can put on record. It's frightening what he can do, and he found Koen because Koen had played on his solo stuff as well. So as people, we gelled really well, and it's been nothing but fun, really.
And also you forget maybe the most important aspect, which is that we share the same birthday a few years ago.
Ah,
We were both born on December 26th.
I was
Uh,
going to point out as well, not only that, that my influences are not just this side of the Atlantic; they're also your side of the Atlantic.
yeah, and
Yeah,
likewise, I have a lot of British influence, so that's a funny thing. We're both
Yeah, yeah.
Anglophiles in the opposite direction.
I would bet that there's very few bands that have members that share the same birthday like that. That's very unique.
Mm.
Yeah, we tried to find a drummer with the same birthday, but damn, didn't work out,
And then you could have
unfortunately.
called yourself that as the name of the band. Yes.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Harrison, I have to ask you, you played with other legends, music legends before, and now you're playing with Paul. How does playing with Paul differ from playing with like Doro and also U.D.O?
Well, I mean, Doro was my sort of first gateway into the European metal world, and I'm always grateful to her for that. And she's a really cool person, and I had a lot of fun playing with her. It's of course, you know, very different, a different kind of metal even from what Paul had been doing all those years. And U.D.O I had a great time with on the road. Also, his son Sven and I are still great friends. They're cool people. Um, but I mean, the major difference for me is I was a sideman in those gigs. I was a keyboardist. I played bass with Doro too at some point for a while. But with Paul, it's completely collaborative, so it's like we're in this together. We share everything. We do everything together. And we rely on each other in a way that I don't know, those bands can sort of orbit around and move on without me quite easily. And that's fine. You know, I wouldn't expect to be more than that for them. But I think as the Cards, we're really locked in as a unit. And I mean, I don't really think it could happen without either of us. And that's a special feeling. It's like we're in this together, you know, and that's a lovely feeling. And also just, yeah, getting to be so close as a friend and as a musical soulmate with, yeah, just such an incredible musician with so much to share and so many stories and just so much history behind him. It's bizarre and cool, and I'm grateful for it forever. You know, it's lovely.
Yeah. I was gonna
Yeah,
ask Paul, do you get bugged a lot for like, telling stories about your career in Saxon from your two bandmates? I mean, I would be like asking you all the time questions about Saxon and your experiences. Do you ever get like, come
they
on, enough already?
no, no, they wait for me to come up with something that has reminded me of something that happened before, you know.
Yeah. One of my favorites is like, hey Paul, let's watch Spinal Tap when we're back from the gig later. And Paul's like, I don't need to watch Spinal Tap. You know, I uh, wasn't it you can tell that. Like wasn't
Okay.
yeah.
Um, a couple of them, including Shearer, came on our tour bus and were wanting anecdotes, and they weren't all about the Saxon tribe. Some of them involved Ozzy Osbourne or Gillan era Black Sabbath and that kind of thing. So the fact that they couldn't find the stage, that wasn't meant to be about Saxon. That was a story where Ozzy Osbourne went the wrong way in the elevator to his gig, and he was really angry about it with himself.
Yeah, but just the fact that these, young up and coming comedians, these Saturday Night Live or whatever these guys were hanging around with you and getting information, which eventually became this iconic movie, which totally, just bayonets our world. That's pretty awesome, man. Yeah.
There,
I,
there
I
is a there is a thought that Harry was impersonating Steve Dawson, but I can't say one way or the other.
that movie, I remember when it came out in 1984. I went to see it like four times in one week, and every time even the fourth time I was catching things that I didn't catch like other times, and it was only up for a week, and I saw it four times, and like it wasn't really that popular when it first came out, but as years went by and people were talking about it, became more and more popular. But yeah, that was a really great movie that really kind of captured that time and kind of everyone took metal so seriously, and that movie kind of like, you know, kind of
Most
took a piss
most
on it.
most people were stunned by the deadpan element. You know
Yeah.
Yeah.
how true to life it was.
I've known a lot. Yeah, I've known a lot of other artists who like it's a little more painful for them to watch. Whether they've shown up to a book signing or album signing and nobody came, none of the fans came. It's like those things hit close to home sometimes in that movie. So
Yeah, well, since we're
That that
talking
re
about that, go ahead.
I was going to say that reminds me of a badly attended gig in New Mexico where it wasn't promoted at all, and U.D.O and Saxon were their own audiences.
nice.
And we were at the front of the stage giving it some, it was so funny.
Okay,
Well, I
I
think
was
on our record release tour of the Netherlands, we had our hardcore people in front watching us, but at each of the 5 gigs we played in the Netherlands here as the Cards, there were people literally sitting in back playing cards, and we thought that was hilarious. That was awesome.
wow. So it's music to inspire card playing also.
Yeah.
Wow.
Call
Yeah.
your grandma, get her down.
So my question was, I was going to ask you, I was going to segue into, well, what is your Spinal Tap moment that you lived? But I pretty much you both told it, so we got both of those right there. Wow, that's great. I mean, I'm sure with being on the road with Saxon all those years, I'm sure there are a lot of moments like that. And sometimes, you will probably get a good laugh out of it, but other times probably was like, this isn't funny. You know, we shouldn't be in this situation.
It's like when you're out on the road, life is happening just as it does everywhere. So you have your ups, your downs, your twists and turns, and that's all part of being on the road. Indeed, there's some frightening moments out there. Frightening catering.
It's when are the gigs thrown in to get you from A to B. That's when it can go drastically wrong. Like one time, Saxon blew up the house PA. Okay, we've done it twice now, but one time in America, we arranged to get the side fills turned around and continue to the end of the gig.
It's one way to do it.
How
Yeah,
did it work? How did it work out?
they liked it. Well, how could they not like it, really? There's nothing like showing willing, is there?
So one of the questions I have for you, Paul, I remember like when Saxon first came out. I mean, I was a fan right from the beginning, 1981, the new wave of British heavy metal. Some of those bands in that era really made it big, like the Def Leppards and the Iron Maidens. But Saxon was always that band that I always felt like, okay, with this record, they're going to make it to the next step. And it never really happened in the United States. It did happen over in Europe. You guys were very popular there, but was it frustrating for the band that you never made it to that like arena headlining status in the United States?
We didn't let it bother us. We were just glad to have a long career.
Yeah, and like you kind of like because of that, do you feel that you have still that hunger and that's, why you still have all these great riffs still because are you still chasing something or is it just the riffs come natural and would have happened either way if you were the most successful band in the world or not?
I think for a musician, this activity going on in here that we cannot stop. And either it drives you crazy or you get it out of your system by recording it, which can also drive you crazy at the same time. The earworm on an album, every song can be an earworm. And that's probably why we love it.
I think that's very well put, Paul. And I mean, I've felt many times in my life too that like if I were to hit a brick wall and say like this is it, I'm giving up. Like this is bullshit and I'm done with this world. I think the next day I would be in this room writing an album about that very feeling. It's just like it's a sickness almost. It's something that you either have or you don't. And it drives you forward regardless, and I think the musicality of it, the friendships of it, the camaraderie of it, and those are the things that drive me. And I think that's something that Paul and I have in common also. It's like the romance of it. Paul's come from planes, trains, tour buses, five-star hotels in his life to what we did last month. We rented a very nice camper, like mini tour bus in the UK, and we toured around supporting Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons, Phil Campbell of Motorhead, out in the UK for 10 shows. And it certainly like wasn't the level that Paul was used to, and even the level that I've played on many times with the Doros and the U.D.Os and whatever. But it had this really triumphant feeling because, as I said, it's us. We own it together. And we were so proud to be out there, eating the gas station food and like just doing it, and I also I'll take it a step further and say I find it to be really cool that the only other people that got to experience that with Paul, that sort of early triumphant romantic level of touring are the original Saxon lineup. So I'm really grateful to live that with him also. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, guys, I want to thank you very much for your time. But I want to end by if you guys can just like tell me your top three favorite records of all time, or three that you think are your favorite and come to your mind right now. So who wants to go first?
Oh man.
Okay. This is a bit of a curveball. U.D.O, which is easy top. Highway to Hell by the Akadakas. And the next one is a difficult choice because I love Purple and Zepp almost equally. So because it's closer to what I'm known for, I'll have to choose In Rock by Purple.
Wow. So we have ZZ Top, AC/DC, and Deep Purple. Wow. That's impressive. All
And
right. You
I'll
ready?
throw even deeper curveballs. Yeah, I hate to go
Okay.
there, but man, I'll say I'll start with the weirdest one, which is an electronic artist that I love, which I think is heavier than heavy metal, and the album's called Drugs by Aphex Twin. It's
Okay.
like very insane, very aggressive music. And as a producer, it just tickles my brain. I think my favorite hard rock metal album of all time is Anima by Tool. I was way into them when I was growing up, and I even learned how to play bass to a couple of their albums. And last one, geez, yeah, it's tough. I'm gonna go even more classic and freak everybody out and say Miles Davis Bitches Brew. Bam, I'm
Wow.
on.
That's funny. My fourth choice was going to be We Get Requests by Oscar Peterson Trio.
There you go.
Wow. Okay. Well, guys, thank you very much for your time, and I really hope you can get to America. But if not, for all of our audience here, you can listen to the cards on Spotify, play them over and over and over again, and you're gonna love these two releases. And again, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, and keep this going. This is some great music you're putting together.
Hey, thank you for the support, Thomas. Thanks so much for having us. We appreciate it, man.
Your health, the fans' health, Harrison's health. Thanks, Thomas.
All right, we'll see AC/DC. All right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys. Bye bye. Thanks again.
Cheers, man. Bye.
Oh.
Hey.
Whew.